Welcome to the President and CEO Focus on the Middle Market podcast series, where President and CEO founder Paul Stukel discusses middle market issues with business leaders from across the nation. Today, Paul speaks with Bob Funk, 70-year-old owner of Express Employment Professionals, and David Lewis, his 32-year-old Vice President of Franchising, about the challenges and rewards of integrating youth into an established management team.
Bob, if possible, could you maybe just give us a quick summary of Express and kind of its history to maybe set the table?
Basically, Express started in 1983, and I think I had $5,000 in the bank at the time, and borrowed $150,000 to keep intact 6 locations in Oklahoma that we had from the old company who ended up in bankruptcy. And so we retrenched, kept our good people, and with that amount of money was able to stay in business and start afresh. We had some great knowledge. I think we had 150 years of experience in the Oklahoma offices, but of course we didn't have the capital to be out on our own, be an entrepreneur that I really wanted to be at that time. And the other CEO, the owner of the other company, basically asked 4 of us VPs to retire, and so we didn't know, of course, at the time that his son was going to put it in bankruptcy. But we started out with a small staff of about 30 people. We were able to I think, do $2 million in revenue the first year in sales, and my goal, of course, was to get back to the same size of the other company that I so enjoyed, and which is 84 locations. It took us 3 years and 10 months to get back to the 84 by selling franchises, because we had no capital. The only way we could really expand the company rapidly was to use franchisees' capital to bring them in and give them the knowledge and the expertise on how to run a small business with us doing all the payrolls for them. So they didn't have to have the bank lines like most other companies had to have, because we banked them. But we did have the expertise, and I took many of those 6 individuals and made them VPs and managers of the national office, and we were able to get to 84, and then we reset our goals to 150, and then 300, and then 450, and then of course 600, and
wow. And
David has helped us get past the 600 mark this year in grand style. So
that's really quite remarkable. It's a great story. And Bob, I hope this is not too personal a question, because it does bear on the conversation with David. Do you have any family members that are involved in the company, sons or daughters kind of thing?
At the current time, I do not have.
Okay.
There's a possibility a family member, a son, might come into the business at some point in time, but he's currently managing all of my sports business and some of the ranching business that I have on the outside of the business. So
gotcha.
He's involved with me again, but not as much in the human resource business, except on a local basis. He does attend our meetings with our local 34 franchises that we have in Oklahoma. So
right.
I wanted to get some knowledge.
Now, when David obviously is a young man, and I've had a chance to chat with him for a few minutes and learned about his how young a man he is. God bless him.
He's way too young, Paul. He's way too young.
He really is. No, I'm really quite disgusted. I mean, this conversation is making me feel very, very old.
Well, it's great to have these young people come into the company, because they come in with fresh ideas. They come in from a different perspective than the old traditionalists like ourselves, and so it's great to have young new talent that looks at it from a different viewpoint.
Yeah, sure. Now, when he was hired, I mean, Was there any friction coming from the folks that had been there for a long time? Because I mean, my experience is with middle market companies of all sizes, really, that are created by self-made men or women. That there's always a bias to, we've done it this way for 20 years and we've been successful, so why are you coming in here and telling us to do something different? I mean, that to me, that's like the biggest hurdle for middle market companies. And I was just wondering if you had any of that kind of friction.
We really didn't have that kind of friction. We've always been open. My philosophy has always been to try and hire individuals a lot smarter than yourself, and give them the latitude to manage the position that they're in, and let them prove themselves. And when they do that, of course, you have a much more flexible company, because you have people who are not fearful of bringing their new ideas to the forefront. And in his case, of course, we lost a person in that position and needed somebody to come in who had some great new ideas, and the vice president that brought him in, of course, knew that he could do the job, and so there really wasn't that much friction at all, because he had the experience in the human resource business down the street, and so we knew that he knew his business and knew that he could sell to new franchisees because he had been there and done that. So, and he was very successful when he was in the franchise down the street as well.
Right. Well, David, I guess on your side, maybe the question is the flip. Do you have any trepidations coming into a kind of an established environment that may or may not have been set in their ways? I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, as Bob mentioned, I was affiliated with the company in a different role, actually working in franchise locations in Oklahoma. So I was familiar with the players, but it's you'd talk AAA ball. It was sort of, in my mind, sort of like getting called up from AAA to the major leagues, and certainly was a lot younger than anyone else on the leadership team. But no, I didn't find any trepidation. And the exact opposite, I think that as a result of Bob, that leadership team embraces change and innovation and ingenuity, and a lot of the seemingly outside ideas, or let's look at this in a different way. I actually found that my peer group and the senior leadership of Express seemed to be attracted to a fresh vantage point, and I think that goes back to Bob and his philosophy on business. Iron sharpens iron, and if we surround ourselves with the best and the brightest, it'll make us better. And I think that's the challenge all of us try to live by, thanks in large part to him and how he's really set up the company.
And I think, Paul, we're a different organization, and we're a very flat organization. We don't have a lot of hierarchy, and I've designed it that way on purpose because more ideas come from more people other than those at the top. And consequently, we're a more nimble company than most. One thing is we're not public, of course. That seems to thwart the nimbleness that many companies need. And,
sure.
And being a privately owned company, we can make decisions quicker. And with a flat organization, including all of the managers and employees that you can in making decisions, I think helps keep us out of the pitfalls of some companies that think that management knows all and does all, and that's just not our style at all.
Well, that's remarkable to hear, Bob. I mean, I got to tell you, and it's very refreshing to hear, and obviously it's paid off for you folks. Because I talk to a lot of middle market CEOs, and it's refreshing to hear that. I mean, I completely agree with your philosophy, by the way, and for me, it's very easy to hire people that are smarter than me. It's a very simple process, as it turns out.
Me too. I was in one half of the class that made the upper half possible.
Exactly. I was helpful to the curve, right? That's why I was so popular.
But I do think I can outwork them. I can outwork them all. And of course, sometimes you have to have to overwork to make up for your lack of maybe intellectual capacity. So.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'm in the same boat, Bob. So, David, in terms of, I mean, again, being the younger guy coming in to an established organization that clearly has a lot of history, a lot of experience. What have you learned from? I mean, again, this is kind of the opposite question. What have you learned from the more experienced folks in the organization, in your peer group?
Well, I think Bob in particular. I think I think my generation. I'm a borderline millennial, Gen X, depending on. I'm right at that cusp.
Right.
So I sort of straddle and identify with both traits. But I think my tendency is to move fast, to look at the efficiency, to figure out, what's the shortest path to the end result. And I think that there's danger if you come at business with that vantage point alone. And so I think one thing I've learned is to simply slow down, value the people side of the business. And I think watching Bob, learning from him over the years, it's without the people, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter what brilliant idea you've got, because you can't execute without the people side. And that's probably been the biggest. You're on a stage where being an individual contributor has its limits, and you've got to learn to work through the people, and that means slow down and develop the empathy and develop the connectivity on the people side.
Yeah, that's interesting. So in terms of your obvious success, David, in bringing new franchisees on, are these folks of your generation? And is that one of the reasons you're successful, or is it completely different than that?
I think there's a piece of that. We had absolutely our best quarter in history in the first quarter of 2013. And Bob said, one goal was to get over 600, and we crossed 600 in December of 2012, and 5 months later here in April, we're 634. So we're not just beating those goals. I mean, we're absolutely on fire. And, the median age of our new owners has dropped. In fact, we've awarded several people in their 20s, and I think that's something that we struggled to do previous. And is it me? I don't think so, but I think what it does from a franchisee standpoint is show that you can be successful really at any age. There's a broad spectrum of success. It's really a culture of success. And whether you're a traditionalist or a boomer, or maybe you're someone that identifies, more like me if you look in the mirror, you can be successful in this model. And so I think in a sense, if I've served as a poster child, that maybe has that positive effect. But I don't think it's panacea because it's me. I just think that people are able to see the company and now see a broad spectrum of success.
Okay, so broader conclusions that sort of stepping back a bit from the specifics of your situation, a very, very successful entrepreneur, of a slightly older generation, a young, aggressive, successful man coming into such an organization. Can you draw any broader conclusions that people might find useful? I mean, middle market companies, certainly privately held companies, from your experiences. I guess Bob, you'd start.
Well, my philosophy is that the quality of your company is only as good as the quality of your people, and it really doesn't matter which generation they're in. It matters what their goals are for their lives and how we can help them to attain their goals and what they want to be, and that we give them, once they come on board with us. I look more at the values of the individual when we hire them than most companies probably would, and because I believe so strongly in loyalty. If it had not been for 6 young people that were loyal to me at the time we started the company, we wouldn't even be here. So and loyalty I think crosses all age barriers, and there are some younger people that believe in loyalty, that believe that their success is a success of the company and its vision and its values, and it makes it a good place to work. The work environment, of course, extremely important, and recognition for those individuals who are dedicated and loyal is very important, no matter what age it happens to be. One of my interviewing questions is, what's your motivator? Is it work environment, recognition, or money? And most of the time, if you find that their money is their motivator, they won't last and they won't stay very long with you, because there's always something or someone outside of your company that can offer more money at certain times. It just may not be the best work environment for them, and they soon learn that when they get into their 30s and their 40s, and often want to come back to work for us if they happen to have left. But the loyalty factor, so that you can help them through their life to accomplish what they want to accomplish, for me is extremely important. And it doesn't matter which age category they're in. There's people who are very loyal. They're traditionalists because they believe in it. The young people, of course, believe a little more mobility. But if we provide a good work environment for them, I don't think they're that tempted to move somewhere else when they can know that they can be successful where they are with us. So I value that extremely when I bring new people into the company. And I've got people with me that have been with me the 30 years that the company's been in existence, and they're still there. And you have to challenge them, of course, to new challenges every year, because you don't want them to get stagnant either. But and you have to challenge new ones when they come in, younger ones when they come in, that they'll be satisfied with their position and their progress, where they're going, to paint them a picture of where they can be someday. Maybe they can be the CEO of the company someday.
Right.
So it depends on what they want to do with their lives.
Yeah, that's interesting. David, what
Does that
do you
make
think?
sense?
Oh, makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. David, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think Bob just offered me a promotion to CEO, but I'm not sure. I don't know if I.
Well, there you go. I mean, Bob, don't worry, we can edit that part. I remember the editing bit.
That may happen someday, Dave. You never know.
Well, I'll tell you this from I think about Bob and the company and talk about challenging a younger generation and get this, Paul. I've actually been here in the Express family companies for 12 years, and that's an anomaly for my age group. I got a jump start out of college, so I was able to kind of start my career sooner with my peer group. But in any event, I think a big part of that's been because the company has embraced my generation's desire to sort of develop our own career identities. And what I mean by that is I've wanted to do things outside of the company, extracurricular. Bob individually and Bob and the company corporately have always supported those things. So, and I think you have an entrepreneurial, that next generation wants to do more than just 8 to 5 and clock in, clock out. So you have to figure out what motivates them and drives their passions, and then embrace that. And it's the whole thing. If you hold people too closely and constrain them too much, they're going to leave you anyway. So you've got to give them a lot of flexibility, and I think that's something that I've learned without even realizing that's what they were doing for me. But I'll give you one of the best pieces of advice Bob ever gave me, and he probably doesn't even remember it. But we had achieved some mark. We had done something great, but Bob said, "Congratulations," publicly, and then he pulled me aside and he said, "But remember, we never arrive. We never arrive."
Right.
And that's really stuck with me. That I think constantly challenging. There's always a carrot. There's always something else there, and being fearful of the status quo. Like I said, some of these folks that have been here for 30 years since the founding of the company, and I watch it and how they challenge them and push them, and you're not allowed to sit back on your laurels. I think that's pretty powerful.
Be sure to check back for future editions of the President and CEO Focus on the Middle Market podcast series. Thanks for listening.